I want to welcome you to our home once again. As you can see, there's a variety of technologies that can improve quality of life. I don't know if you knew this, but November is National Family Caregiver Month. And so we not only want to acknowledge the family caregivers who give up so much of their time to be sure that their loved one is well taken care of, but we also want to talk about emerging technologies that can improve independence and quality of life, not only for the pals, but also for the cows. Come take a look. A disease such as ALS and other similar disorders are progressive, and with those continual losses of function, it can become really overwhelming, not only for the caregiver to have to see to the needs of everything that they need, but also for the person living with the disease. They lose a lot of independence, and with that, I think, a lot of dignity. We want to showcase a variety of ways to use these new technologies before you need eye gaze. Now, in some cases, people with bulbar ALS, they might need to start using an eye gaze right away. And we really encourage families to start practicing and using those right away. But we also want to showcase some new devices that are on the market. They're fairly affordable, actually. They're easy to implement, put together. If you know how to connect Bluetooth to a device, you'll know how to do this pretty simple. So we're going to show a few of our favorites. We're going to show Matthew showing off a little bit of his skills with his computer. And we think the emerging technologies are one tool in that toolbox that can help improve quality of life for not only the pals, but for the cows as well. So one of our favorite devices is easily affordable. This device is roughly $800. It is ordered. It takes several weeks to arrive, but I'm going to just show you a little bit about it. So as you can see, Matthew is using this particular device. This device is chargeable, comes with a charging cord, and you would wear this device. Now, when you consider hand control and being able to use a mouse, you move your hand and click on the mouse. This is very similar to the same thing. This is the mouse on the computer, and you move your head. There's a variety of switches to be the click for the mouse. That's what we're going to talk about today. As you can see Matthew here, he loves using the bite switch. He's lost control of his arms, but he can still move his head very well. And so that mouse moves around the screen and he bites on what he's trying to select on that computer. Let me show you a couple other devices that come with this device. This device is found online, and it is a game changer for energy expenditure, for independence. It comes with a variety of switches. Matthew's switch is a mouth switch, so he's using his mouth. However, if you still have control of your hands, you can use the finger switch. This one, my personal favorite color, is just a button switch. So if you lost dexterity in your hands, you can just click like this, set it down somewhere what's convenient for you where you can hit a switch. This device comes with the GlassOuse. These attachments, these switches can be ordered with it. This is a blink switch, so very similar to eye gaze, but this can control, are you ready for this? 4 devices at once. You can order a GlassOuse Pro to be able to manage your cell phone, a tablet, a computer, and your television simultaneously. How amazing is that to have minimal movement, but still be able to control the environment and the things you want to do? Now, in the last episode, we talked about home environmental controls. This still is able to use those switches, those apps, that dashboard to control your environment as well. So even if you don't need eye gaze or you're just starting to learn eye gaze, this is a great thing to implement. So this is the head controller. This is the other GlassOuse Pro. This controls 4 devices with 4 different switch outputs. So they can be used interchangeably. You can use any of these switches here that you need. They've also created a muscle twitch. So if you have very little movement, you can put on an EEG type of switch for muscle control to activate your whatever you're trying to control as well. The technology around this is not only affordable, anybody can do it, and it's kind of fun. So definitely don't let these technologies intimidate you. They are a huge resource, and they're a great tool in the toolbox to navigate independence.
So one of the things I really enjoy doing is playing video games. And I have a favorite, but for me it takes multiple different technologies to make that happen. So the first thing we do is we use the Ultra keyboard, which gives us all the accessories. And I can control that with my GlassOuse glasses and bite switch. And the next thing that I do is I use a online voice app, which is I got on Steam for free.
If you couldn't quite hear that, he said he got that VoiceBot on Steam for free. So he uploaded VoiceBot to be able to also control some of the settings in his video games.
So within VoiceBot, I programmed this, all these commands for the way I want it set up.
So the way this was, he set up all the voice commands with the way he wanted the game to play.
So the inside of VoiceBot, there's about 2,000 or more games that are already pre-programmed. So if you want to play any games, you might check and see if it's already programmed. You then learn it, and you can play with your voice automatically. Anything from the console to the PC. So once voice is open, we're going to go to my game.
Matthew is a Marine, so he definitely loves these kind of games. What this allows for me is that Matthew is able to play his video games, all the buttons that we take for granted that we're able to do with a video console, he's able to do with eye gaze, voice, and his bite switch. It's pretty incredible what he's able to do independently without having to ask us to constantly be doing something for him. We think that it would be easy to be a caregiver to somebody with ALS, but it really isn't. Matthew has full sensation. He can feel everything. And so he has a lot of adjustments that he needs, and scratches and itches and movements that we have to help provide. Many times, caregivers over a long period of time experience burnout. What we're trying to do is lower costs, improve technology, but more importantly, think of the caregiver and the family members that are a part of this journey and how to give them the tools necessary to make sure that everybody's quality of life is as high as possible.
So what I'll be doing is tell it speaking the commands, and it'll translate to the game. It's not very quick, and I'm not very good, but it sure is fun. Pace. Spread. Pace. Six.
With his voice, his bite switch, he's able to, and the online keyboard, he's able to control the person in the game with no help from me.
Pace. Spread.
When we think about independence, it's more than just watching television or listening to books. It's engaging with others. This is another way you can engage with people socially online. I think we can see how much he enjoys being able to have the opportunity to still do a lot of the same things he used to do when he had mobility in his hands. So tomorrow, we're going to go to the Matt's Place Spokane house, visit with Ryan again, meet Benjamin, and the device that's on Matthew's left here is the Tobii iGaze. Matthew's been practicing with it. If he loses the ability to communicate, he'll have to use other modes to be able to do that. So he's got his sitting right here on his console, But tomorrow we're going to dive in a little bit deeper of what that can do as well. So we're back here in the Matt's Place Spokane home, and Ryan has graciously allowed us to camp in here and talk a little bit more about those emerging technologies that we talked about. We're here today, we have a guest. This is Ben Swenson. He is not only a speech-language pathologist, but he is also a representative for Tobii Dynavox. We talked earlier about the eye gaze technology and ways it can improve communication. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. Tell me what these devices are.
Yeah, so I brought a few of our goodies today from Tobii Dynavox. This is our Windows-based device. It's called an iSeries device. It comes in 2 different sizes. This is the largest one that we have. And this is our Apple-based device. You know, we find that individuals, they often have pretty significant preferences. I'm an Apple home or I'm a Windows home. We offer both options for individuals that have a preference either way. And through these technologies, they're operated with eye gaze as well as touch and switch access. It hopefully gives them an outlet or more ability to be able to access things that they used to be able to or never thought that they could before.
So we talked a little bit about yesterday with the GlassOuse device and the switches that can be implemented. What kind of switches can be used here?
So any switch can be attached to these devices.
A finger switch?
Finger switches, joysticks, Bluetooth switches, head switches.
Sip and puff?
Switches can as well. So any number of switches can be attached to these devices.
I've met many families on our journey in the last 10 years, and a lot of the questions I get are, when should somebody get an eye gaze? At what time in their diagnosis? In the very beginning? When they're losing their speech? When is the best time to get a Tobii Dynavox?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we as practitioners and families that are involved with these progressive diagnoses are generally pushing for as early as possible.
Okay.
We want these technologies in front of these users when they have as many of their faculties as they possibly can, so that they can learn and troubleshoot through the process. You know, they can rely on their finger while they're practicing eye gaze, or they can rely on a switch while they're practicing eye gaze, and those sorts of things. Unfortunately, these devices are very expensive, so very few families are purchasing them outright, which means we have to go through insurance to be able to purchase these devices generally. Insurance generally wants to wait until the last minute of need. And so what I would recommend is start that conversation early with your speech therapist and your team. And generally, we can try to thread that needle of getting it for you as early as we possibly can, while also satisfying those requirements.
Yeah. So there's all sorts of different types of insurance, your co-pays, what that's going to look like. So I'm going to do a little plug here and say that there are loaner closets throughout the United States with the ALS Association. You can reach out to them. Sometimes they can help provide an eye gaze device. Also, Team Gleason is wonderful about helping pay for co-pays so that can help alleviate some of that stress. I tell the families that we meet with, please utilize every resource available to you, which means nonprofits are there to be a support. So if you can save some funds that could be used somewhere else, definitely reach out to those nonprofits and ask for their support. That's what we're here for. I do have a question about, now you mentioned this is like PC version and Apple, right? Yeah. What kind of apps can we upload? Can we do home automation with these devices?
Yeah, so that's another good question. The answer is yes. Because we're working with a Windows device to an Apple device, the path that we use to get access to those things is a little bit different. Windows is always a developer's best friend, right? It's easier to make changes into Windows. And so there are some differences between these devices. The Windows device allows us to take things that you do on your daily life and adapt them to make them easier. You think of an example I like to use is a YouTube page. Well, if you're trying to use your eye gaze and accessing a YouTube page and you want to hit the play button on the bottom left, it's a pretty small target. And so sometimes it's difficult to use your eyes to navigate over and hit that small target. on a Windows device, we're able to take that popular item like a YouTube page and make it more adaptive or adapt it to make it easier. And what that looks like is we turn those buttons into large, easier to...
Like icons on the screen, kind of bigger. Yeah, you pull them up.
So there is a little bit less that in terms of the amount of apps that we can access on the Windows device, but we have the ability to meet you at many different levels there. The iPad-based device, the great thing about that is you have access to any app on the App Store through the Apple-based device. Because it's Apple, we don't have the ability to make any of those apps easier, but you do have access to more that way.
So if families are wanting to learn about this, who would they contact? Who's their best resource?
Yeah, so you can always look up who your rep is online. There's a Tobii Dynavox rep finder. You can type in your zip code and you'll find a rep like me. There are over 110 of us here in the United States, multiple in a state, so we're always close by. But generally, the first place to start is your speech therapist. And if you don't have a speech therapist, it's really easy to get a referral from your primary care physician or your neurologist to start having a speech therapist come into your home, or you being able to go meet one. And they all have generally had some taste of these kinds of devices and know where to start or who to reach out to.
I think a lot of people are familiar with Stephen Hawking, right? And he started using eye gaze, I think, long before people even understood what it was. And that's amazing, right? It's such an inspiration. I know families that have been affected by ALS for decades, and they've done schoolwork. They manage their kids' calendars and their spouses' budgets and all of those things. So what I'm trying to do is explain to families that there's so much that can be done with these devices. I know there's intimidation. There's a term called device abandonment. It's a very popular concept in that if you get the device and you don't have the support necessary, you might get so frustrated that you just don't even want to deal with it anymore. That's why we recommend starting to learn about these different devices and ways to implement them before we're there. So families that are diagnosed with bulbar ALS, right, they lose the ability to speak first. This is going to be the first thing that your ALS clinical care team is going to start recommending, ways to communicate. Remember, communication is a right. It's not a privilege. So we need to find every tool in the toolbox. And I know I say tool in the toolbox a lot, but I don't know of a better way of saying which tool do we need today to adapt what we want to be able to do, right?
Absolutely. So your entire team, speech therapists, neurologists, your Tobii Dynavox or device rep, we're just here to make this process as easy as possible so you don't have to stress as much as, you can focus on those important things like feeding and changing and mobility and things like that.
And travel and art and all the things that we love that make us human.
Yeah, you did mention abandonment and support, and it is important to know that whatever device that you get, it comes with a support network. So if you have gotten these devices or are planning on getting one, don't be afraid to reach out to those individuals who are assigned to you. If it's a Tobii Dynavox device in Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho, or Montana, that would be me. It's my job to make sure that you feel comfortable with this equipment and that anybody else involved feels comfortable. And that can be grandparents, that can be children, that can be
family
therapists,
family caregivers, right?
Any number of people. It's my job. I can do as many trainings as we need, both remote and in person. We want to avoid that abandonment by giving you as much support as possible to make sure that you're not afraid to use it and get that benefit that you need.
Later today, we're going to go visit Len's wife, Natalie, and she's going to show us how she has created music with her Tobii Dynavox with just her eyes. So I think that's pretty incredible. Like I said, what we can do with these devices is so impressive. So I would be remiss in saying that Tobii Dynavox is just one type of product on the market that has eye gaze technologies. There's a company called Eye Gaze. There's other companies on the market. So Matt's Place isn't going to promote just one product over another. We're really big into informing and educating our audience so that they can find what works for them. It's very similar to, like, we're back to that Apple and that Android, right? What somebody's comfortable. And so if the opportunity presents itself, please research all the devices, try to see which one is the best fit for you. I think being frustrated with technology is something we all, I think, can relate to. And so we want to find the best fit. I think that's one of the reasons why we're talking about some of these other emerging technologies. So in a little bit, I think we're going to have Ryan show us the Quadstick, the PCI, which is Tobii Dynavox has a smaller version that's here, and we're going to show that off. And ways maybe that they can be used in tandem together, right? A Quadstick with an eye gaze, a GlassOuse with a Tobii. Those things are options as well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. And like I said, we're going to go see Len's wife, Natalie, and she's going to show us some of her beautiful work that she's created as well.
Yeah, it is important to know that there's so much that you can do with this technology.
Yeah.
Communication, because that's what insurance is concerned with. That's what we usually focus on to get the device. But once you receive your device, there's any number of things that you can do. You can create art, create music. I know individuals who write books or continue working using their device and their eye gaze. So communication is a part of it, but we also hope to give you tools to do a lot of those other
The things that give us purpose, right?
I did want to just point out that there are, as you mentioned, a lot of kind of different level technology that's available. You mentioned the PCI as an option. That is an out-of-pocket eye tracker that can be connected to a Windows tablet or desktop that lets you control it with your eye gaze. It's not as mobile as something like this, but it's generally something that families can afford themselves rather than having to go through insurance. So there are, and you also mentioned some tools like lending libraries, donated devices. I know the Gleason Fund will help pay for copays of a device, but they also sometimes have devices that can be lent out. So there are a lot of resources as you're making this decision that can provide the same experience that you can practice with.
I do have a question for you really quick. Matthew was showing us how he plays video games with his voice, the GlassOuse, because he's able to use it as the controller, right? And his pop-up voice bot, or his voice bot and his on-screen keyboard. Can you play video games or games beyond solitaire with this?
You can. So I mentioned that the Apple devices, you have access to anything on the App Store. So you can pull those up and try any number of games there. Windows is working very hard to develop a lot of different types of games. Some of them include World of Warcraft or Call of Duty that have eye gaze ports, I guess, connections, so that you can start to control those things. So yes, the options available for entertainment and some of those gamers out there are expanding, and there are some pretty good offerings already.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to see where this goes in the next few years and how they continue to expand their library of options.
And you also mentioned that there are a number of other options out there. I just want to note the reason we do things like a Windows or an iPad is because the research shows us that success comes when you're using a device that you feel most comfortable with. So go out there, get those experiences. It's our job, regardless of the company that you're working with, to make sure that you have the opportunity to make those decisions to the best of your ability. I'm a speech therapist. Ethically, it's my job to put these things in front of you, let your speech therapist make the best decision for your family, and hopefully none of us are going to push you to make any decision that you're not ready for. So take your time, do your research, use those resources that you have available. That's the best way to get the best decision.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah, I just think a lot of families aren't as informed as they could be, especially if they're in rural or smaller areas where they can't get to an ALS clinic as easily. And so we're hoping this is just one resource families can share with their loved ones that are going to be experiencing a disease similar to ALS. And there are other diseases that these are used for. So if you find value in this video, please share with family and friends. Subscribe. We'd love to continue sharing our wisdom with you all. Now we're going to go take a look at Ryan's setup, and it's pretty cool. Come on. Hey, Ryan, thanks for letting us come in here and look at this sweet setup you got going on.
Yeah.
I know this little device here. It is incredible. It's called the Quadstick. It is 3D printed in Montana. You can purchase it online, but I want you to show me some of the things you use it for and maybe teach Ben some of the ways that it could be amplified.
Okay. Well, I have 3 devices here, and 2 different input devices. I have my cell phone, my Tobii Dynavox, and then my PC, and then I use a combination of Quadstick and Tobii eye gaze for inputting, mainly because if something goes wrong with one of them, I always have a backup. And then secondly, because some of them, Quadstick is good for some things, it's slower for others.
When did you get the Quadstick?
Maybe like 3 years ago.
About 3 years ago? What did you love about it when you first got it? Was it hard to kind of figure out how it works? Because I know there's a lot of different switches and ways you can program the sip and puff and the chin control. So I'm just wondering, like, was that easy for you to learn how to do, or did it take a little time?
That was fairly easy. I mean, it depends. The capacity of the Quadstick goes far beyond what I use it for, and a lot of people use it for more complex things than I do, like for gaming. For instance, I use it strictly as just an input device for web surfing and chatting with friends online and shopping and controlling my environment. But it has all these different switches. It has a joystick in the middle, and then it has 3 switches and 4 switches right at my lips.
Here, and here?
Yep. And then all of them can be programmed to do different things depending on the program that you're in, and you could switch the functions by using this sip and the straw here.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to go from just regular mouse surfing to MLB The Show, I can sip and switch it over, or if I wanted to program it for the different switches to be different keyboard functions, I could switch over very quick, and it would.
I actually know some young teenagers who are full quads, and they play video games with this, and their friends online have no idea that they're not using their hands with a controller, that they are literally just using that. How incredible is that? Like, could you imagine the doors that opens for you? What do you think, Ben, about this?
Yeah, I think it's the thing that blew me away is how accessible it is for individuals to get. A lot of this technology is very expensive. The fact that you can get this device for $500, I recognize that that's a lot of money, but comparatively, pretty easy entry.
Comparative to a Tobii?
To something like that, or absolutely. To give you access to this technology on a way that you maybe weren't able to access before. And it goes beyond just being an accessible switch, right? A gamepad, a mouse, a keyboard. I did have a question. Do you know much about the support that's offered or the learning tools that are available? Was it pretty easy to learn how to do those things? Are there YouTube videos or online resources?
All of the above.
Yeah, YouTube is so great for learning about some of these things. You can see a lot in the comments. People ask questions. They're very helpful. The accessible community, if you will, I don't want to just say ALS community because that makes it a little smaller, but those with any kind of limitations with their physical movements, you can find so much support on social media apps. There's private groups. There's Reddit That's my favorite social media app because you can kind of just dive in on the things you want. And Quadstick, you can also reach out to the company and they'll also answer your emails to help answer questions of how to do stuff. There's an online ability to upload things that are already programmable to this. So what was the game that you were mentioning earlier that you could upload the settings right to the Quadstick?
Pretty much.
Star Wars
every
Battlefront.
game, yeah, there's Star Wars Battlefront, but pretty much every game that has a controls program that you could go to the Google sheet, the Google
Doc?
the Google Doc, where people have uploaded different games, and then you just download it right to your Quadstick, and there you go, you're good to go. Then
That's incredible. I would need that. I would need to be able to upload things that are already done. I would struggle with this, but Matthew thinks that this is just a game changer for families.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a pretty awesome community that's already been building things for this switch, and
it's pretty rad. I mean, it allows you to completely interact with your, for instance, I interact with my PC or my cell phone, and I also have it hooked up.
You
If
can
I
hook
want
this to your cell phone.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, I could use my cell phone, or I could use it up on my Tobii Dynavox too.
Wow. I didn't realize it could do all of those simultaneously. That is incredible, actually. And you're pulling up your remote control for your television as well.
I can, so I'm on my cell phone right now.
Yeah.
I could just go and mess around with my cell phone, make calls, or I can switch back to where I'm back on my PC.
I remember the story of when you first got this and you got this all set up and you actually started managing your friends' fantasy baseball league. Is that correct? With
Yeah.
Excel spreadsheets and...
Yeah, that was like the first thing I learned how to do was just use it as a mouse, but then use it to work inside of Excel, or Google Sheets.
Well, I don't know anybody that likes Excel. I certainly don't. So that is really impressive to me.
Yeah, so it makes, maybe for managing, I manage my own healthcare. I don't have anyone else that manages it for me, and I do it all via Google Calendars, Google Sheets, whether it's my caregivers, medication, doctor's appointments, whatever it is. I manage it all through the tools that everyone else has access to, but it wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the Quadstick.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah. So I don't have anyone that's... I have people that take care of me, but my brain still functions, so I try to use that as much as possible. Quadstick makes,
so a starting point would be Quadstick Google search would take you to their website. You can get a lot of initial information.
Quadstick.com. The homepage tells you all about it. All sorts of documentation, get contact with people, and from there,
And it does look like right on their website, they have a Discord link and forums that you can go to. And
Videos and documentation, yeah.
oh yeah,
And this has really come a long way. Their website has actually, since the last time I saw it.
yep. Here's the Google, here's the groups for and here people will post different, programming for different games and stuff like that.
and I do think that's a good thing to note, is that a lot of times you can get great support by going to the company representatives like me. But man, I have seen families of users and users themselves do things that maybe I don't have time to do or haven't seen before. And so these user resources where you're talking to actual people who are using it every day to day, looking on Facebook and Google searches, Discord and Reddit, like you mentioned, are incredibly valuable to spend some time there and join some of those groups and ask those questions, because They're the ones using it on a day-to-day basis.
So here's a really personal question, Ryan. Are you ready? Without this, what would your life look like, do you think?
Oh, I would be asking a caregiver to do absolutely everything for me just to change the station or play or adjust the volume. I mean, I would be...
Every little thing.
Yeah, I'd be totally dependent. I mean, on someone to, yeah.
So for your mental health, even though there's been, I guess, a learning curve, for your mental health, do you feel like this is just a game changer for people?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Can't.
Right.
Good just being able to talk to friends and yeah, I mean, having some kind of control and maintaining some kind of dignity in your own life, that's huge for mental health.
Well, I think necessary, honestly.
Yes. And it, helps you feel included. I can feel included with my friends and family, and that makes a big difference with mental health,
Yeah. I appreciate you letting us crash in your house again. You're so generous in opening up the doors and the gate for us. And we just appreciate you taking the time. Thank you. And for those of you that didn't know, Ryan is a huge Seattle Mariners fan. So,
yeah.
Well, he's a big sports fan, but
as difficult as that has been through the years, yeah.
Yeah, the glimmer.
Go Mariners.
Yeah, go Mariners. You're a dedicated, true fan.
Yeah.
I want to just take a moment to thank you, Ben, for coming here today, talking about your wisdom and the experience and the support that you guys offer as speech-language pathologists and representatives from Tobii Dynavox. Ryan, as always, thank you for opening your home to us.
Thank you.
We're going to go see Len and Natalie Lentford, and she's going to show us some of the things she does with her eye gaze. I think you're going to be impressed. Yeah.
Power of the eyes.
The power of the eyes.
Yeah, thanks so much, Sharon.
Thank you, Natalie. We are in Natalie and Len's home. They're so gracious to let us come in here and ask lots of questions and just dive in on some of this stuff. Natalie has had ALS for about 5 years now. 5 years? She was diagnosed with bulbar ALS, so she quickly lost the ability to communicate with her mouth. And so quickly she had to learn how to use eye gaze. In the past, many families will use this just as a communication tool. They don't realize all the options that are available. And we wanted to show off some of Natalie's impressive skills. So she's going to play some of the music that she's actually created and written with her eyes. And we're just excited to see what she has to share with us. And we hope that you'll take a listen and also follow her blog. She's pretty incredible. So this is called Out in the Silence. Oh my gosh. So you did not have the words in this one, but you have composed the music, all the different instruments as well that would play, and singing and the words. That's pretty incredible. When we think about the challenges that we're faced with, what do we want? What do we need to give us purpose in a day, to help us look forward to more adventures? My husband and I love to travel. I know you do too. Natalie and Len have 2 small boys, being engaged in their school activities. And what does your day-to-day look like? That's what we're hoping to inspire families to look for, to build that community, and to find meaning and purpose despite a disease such as ALS. We can't take ALS away, right? But we can control how we face it and the choices we make. And Natalie has been incredibly inspiring for me. She's just risen up to this challenge, and it's just been amazing. Natalie, I'm going to ask you some questions. You ready? Okay. Natalie, do you feel like this has helped give you something to focus on daily?
Yes. I would be lost without a way to create and express myself.
Yeah. I mean, that's what humans do, right? They have this beautiful spirit inside of them for creating art, whether that's painting, music. In my case, I love to cook and create food. What are all the different ways we can express ourselves and share that with the world around us and our families? Natalie not only has the support of her husband, who's helped create a home environment where the controls, so she can navigate not just this, but she can navigate her lights, her temperature, and Natalie's able to control the bidet. Len's done an amazing job, and she just shared with me earlier that on April Fool's, when he went in to use the restroom, she got him. She turned it on, and he was like, ooh. And I just love that story. Again, what are the things that spark joy and humor? We talked a lot about eye gaze and different types of technology to control your environment and communicate, but we haven't talked about how you would use your voice. Natalie has bulbar ALS, which means it affected this region first, struggling with swallowing, eating, speaking, enunciating words. So families that are affected with bulbar first are really encouraged to not only use this Tobii Dynavox or an eye gaze device, but I also would be remiss in not talking about voice cloning and voice banking. I tell families many times to do both options. Voice cloning, though, is an emerging technology. There's a company called 11 Labs. We've worked very closely with them, and they offer an incredible product. It's kind of mind-blowing. I know you weren't able to voice bank because you had lost that ability to enunciate. Is that correct?
I tried.
Yeah, you tried, but you couldn't quite get the banking down. The difference between voice banking and voice cloning is quite extensive, actually.
It was not a good finished product.
Right. And that's because she'd already been affected by bulbar. So voice banking is recording words or phrases that can be uploaded into your device so it can speak in your voice. It's tedious. Usually there's an expense involved. 11 Labs is just an amazing company. They offer free voice cloning for families. The inflection, the intonation, the tone is unlike anything I've ever heard before. I would recommend voice banking and voice cloning, so you have both options, but definitely don't be afraid to look into this because It's pretty incredible. And if you've lost your voice, this is something that can give you your voice back.
It's much better than listening to Samantha talk for you.
That's true. So what she means by that is you can actually pick a voice that's pretty close. So she could make herself have an Australian accent or an English accent or a gentleman's voice, and she could talk really low. But really, you know, you want to be able to speak as close to as comfortable in your voice as possible. I think Natalie has done just an amazing job of making sure that her voice and her desires and her creativity is still being shared with the world. It's pretty incredible. Is there anything that you would want to tell us about creating art, living with ALS, finding purpose? I know that's a lot to ask, and you can take all the time you want.
I would say that it's important to find joy and purpose in life. I realized how much my voice matters and that I need to share my light with others even now, so I spend time with that focus.
Yeah, that's it, right? Is how do you navigate these kind of challenges? Is you got to dig deep. Matthew and he coined it as uncrushable spirit. You sharing your light with others and finding joy. Absolutely. This disease is challenging for families, and it's expensive, and it's so difficult in so many different ways. This disease is also not going away. It's estimated that ALS will increase by 70% by 2040, and diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and ALS are expected to be the second leading cause of death within the next 15 years. Our communities and our families, I don't think, are aware of the challenges that are coming our way. That's what Matt's Place is hoping to do, is create housing and inspire people to use technologies and to hopefully inspire people to live with an uncrushable spirit. I'm so glad that you let us here today. None of this would be possible without ALS Finding a Cure We Care. Thank you for your gracious donation towards these efforts. We do have one more video coming, but we hope you'll subscribe, you'll share with your family, and share with the community all the possibilities that are out there.